Tilly Talks are back.
Yay.
The weather was a little different, wasn't it, when we first did it?
So welcome everyone. I'm Kushla. We've got Julia over here. And very exciting this morning, we've got Lucy, who's joined us as well for a very special Tilly Talks, because Lucy, you've got someone that you're going to introduce to the team, haven't you?
Yes, I have. She's currently trying to walk off. She was here, but she'll be back. Yes, I will. Hang on, let me introduce her. This is Marge.
Oh, Marge, you are
keep her here whilst I can.
So how old is Marge?
I'm just going to let her go down. She is 14 weeks now. Yeah, but still just a baby.
And what breed or mix of breeds is Marge?
So she is a Westie, which is what I'm most familiar with, crossed with a toy poodle. I think it's called a Westie Poo.
A Westie Poo.
Hence slightly different ears that we don't know whether they're going to go up or stay floppy. Either's obviously fine.
We still have that problem with Tillys.
And Tilly, because she's just got slightly jealous about the fact we've introduced Marge.
You said, excuse me, this is Tilly Talks, not Marge Talks.
Totally.
Well, she looks like a monster, doesn't she?
So, because Tilly's getting very jealous about the fact that there might be a small, fluffy, rather cute puppy around, she's got to put in an appearance, which is fine. So how old was Marge when you got her, Lucy?
She was 9 weeks when we got her. We went off. It was very snowy, and she kind of blended in with the snow, and she was so tiny you could literally hold her in your hand. But yeah, she was just coming up to 9 weeks when we got her. So yes, we've had her for a few weeks now.
So she is so tiny, she's so much smaller. Even though when you brought Tilly home, you know, so much. So have you had to make very special, changes and adaptations to the house because she's so small?
Yes, we've done quite a few. We've done a few bits. I mean, first of all, as we all know, puppy, the toilet training, which actually she came and she slept straight through the night, and she's actually pretty good at toilet training. But we did lift up the rug, but then because I've got laminate wood floor, the floor is currently covered in non-slip vet bed. So that to me was the absolute first thing that had to be done, because making sure she's not slipping and sliding. And then we've got a little, I mean, I could just say no dogs on sofas, but that doesn't work in my house. So she obviously can't jump on the sofa, nor do I want her to be able to jump that height right now. So we've got a little, I suppose you call it like a little puff. So it's actually quite soft, which is quite good as well, because she does tend to tumble onto it. So she's got quite used to hopping from the floor to the little cushion and then onto the sofa. And actually she only gets off the sofa that way as well. Can you hear her currently chatting?
Attention, yes.
Attention, exactly. So we did that. And then the one adaptation I hadn't really thought about, and it's really just by observing her that I noticed it. I've got like a lot of people do, those laminate doors where the little step is actually that plastic as well. Now, the bigger dogs don't use that little step. They go from inside to outside. Whereas obviously Marge's legs are teeny, and I noticed she was using that step and slipping a lot on it. So she'd literally slip off the step and fall down it, because it is so slippy, especially when it's wet, because she can't yet make that reach. So all I did there, and it's made the world of difference, is put some non-slip tape. And it's really interesting.
Brilliant.
She still uses it, but she doesn't slip at all now.
The thing is, Lucy, talking a lot about floors and slipping. It is so important, isn't it? And they slide and slip very quickly, and we don't actually see what's happening to their bodies, do we? Not really, because they don't slow-mo, they do it in fast time. So absolutely. Fascinating what you're saying.
And I think, I notice it probably because I'm hyper aware of it, and I'm always trying to avoid slips for any of the dogs. But I could just notice that she was really slipping every time she went in and out. So literally after a day, I managed to get some of that tape sent quite quickly, and I've just put it across, And it's brilliant. You know, it's outside, it doesn't come unstuck, and she doesn't slip.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
What about miniature? I mean, because she's so small. What about getting harnesses and collars and things for her?
Well, yes, she was a slight challenge with anything to be put on her. She doesn't like it. So I'm very lucky to have some good friends and people I've worked with who are trainers and behaviourists who gave me some good tips of how to get anything on her. So we had to start really slowly. We managed to get a really small collar, which after a while and very careful handling, we've managed to put on her. The harness is something we're still working towards. I had the ideal harness that I wanted to be in when she's fully grown, but in the time being, I've got a puppy harness that I'm happy still clears her shoulders, clears her neck. The biggest thing that I think I'd forgotten about are puppy leads. So a little puppy lead like this you'd get, which is small, it's light. On a little dog, it's actually not long enough. If you imagine where your hand is, and if you're walking and you've got other dogs, I was finding that I had a permanent slight pull on her neck. So a standard puppy lead with a really, really small dog meant she was permanently being pulled up towards me. But then I also think you have to be, well, careful with any puppy, but especially the small ones, that the lead isn't too heavy.
Yeah.
So big leads were too heavy, but I ended up finding something. This is just very light. She's currently eating it with a really light clip.
Brilliant.
So this is just 2 meters.
We've got to remember the fastenings.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really lightweight clip, but it gives me the extra length.
Yeah.
So I still have control of her and I can pull it in or let it out. But what's this? But I've not got a permanent kind of pressure and pull on her neck. And ideally she will be in a harness very soon, but we're just having to take that slowly so as not to stress her out.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think that's something that, because often the puppies get so excited that they try and nibble at your hands as you're trying to get them on. And some of the puppy clips are really fiddly to do.
Yeah.
And the more time you spend fiddling around trying to either get it on their harness, they're much more likely then to turn around and nibble at your hands because you're taking so long. So it's one of those things that's really worthwhile looking at and exploring, you know, when you're actually doing that. So Marge isn't your only puppy though, is she, Lucy?
No. So in the family, we've got 3 other dogs, Westies. And obviously getting Marge was something we considered for a long time, a good kind of 18 months or so. And we had to find the right time, you know, with all the other dogs and the stages that they were at. So yes, there's 3 others. And we had to manage those introductions very carefully, and I will always say it, but touch wood, it's going well. They actually quite like having this little thing to play with. And Marge has kind of found her place in the group, and she knows how to communicate with each and every one a little bit differently because they are obviously also different. But yes, she's found her way, and they're all pretty accepting of her.
So how do you manage because obviously the 3 other adult dogs, they all need to go for a walk. How do you manage Marge that situation?
Well, obviously I'm mindful of not over-exercising Marge. Maisie, be quiet. That's the other one chatting away. Not over-exercising Marge. And also there was a time until Marge had her jabs that she couldn't go out. So Marge is now able to be walked, but I'm literally at the moment only doing 10 minutes or under at any one time. And what I have is sorry, now my doorbell's going, but we'll just try and ignore that, is a bag that Marge goes in. Bag goes in, and she starts to walk in the bag and she can watch everything going on. And then when I know I've got maybe 10 minutes left, I let her out of the bag.
Brilliant. That's perfect.
This was a lot lighter than Tilly was in.
Yes, and I appreciate that doesn't work for everybody. Because yes, you can't carry a massive weight around your neck, but for Marge, it is the way that at the moment we're managing it.
Yeah, no, it's such a great way, isn't it?
So, Julia, how old is Tilly now?
What, the monster that keeps attacking?
The puppy that is Tilly, how old is she now?
She is 10 and a half months, yes. I mean, She's March the 2nd, her birthday. So I don't know where the time's gone. I really don't. I mean, obviously I didn't have her in March, but where has that time gone, Kushla?
I can't believe she's that old, to be honest, already.
I know.
Really, I mean, from her age-wise, we would almost say that she's getting into adolescence.
I think from behaviour-wise, you could say that too. Yeah.
Is she starting to kind of test a few boundaries and just spread her wings a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, she put me in this illusion that I could actually sort of even do a little bit of mild training. And she actually let me know that her recall was very good and all of that. And then suddenly, but it's different situations. So yeah, there are quite a few little things that are coming up with regards the adolescent sort of idiosyncrasies. Recall is generally very good, I have to say, but if it's something more exciting than me, that at the moment there are a lot more things that are more exciting than me. It is, sometimes she hesitates a little bit. I do actually use the gun dog whistle because I don't like screaming across woods or whatever. And that is really good because she now knows that sort of 3 blast, she gets a really nice treat. So that's working well, but not all the time. Yeah. And there are other things, yes.
Whistles can be really, really helpful because it takes the emotion out. You don't escalate from the, Rover come, Rover come, Rover come, Rover get in.
That's true. That's
you haven't got that escalation of emotion. The whistle takes that out. So sometimes, it can be a really good tool to use. But it's really interesting about adolescence. All dogs go through it, but at different stages. So some can actually start as young as 5 months, but it's usually anywhere between 6 months, and it can be up to, for the larger breeds, up to 2 years.
Okay.
But it's behavior changes, it's changes, the bitches might come into season. Tilly hasn't had a season.
No, not as far as I know. I would have thought I would, but no, she hasn't.
Some bitches kind of quite sneaky little seasons, and you barely aware of it. But they can come into season. The male puppies, when they get to about 6 months, 18 months, give off twice as much testosterone as an adult male dog.
Twice as much?
Yeah, which is why they can really get themselves into trouble. So all of the male dogs that maybe they were playing with as puppies and they had the puppy license, all of a sudden they come out and go, ooh, and they're just full of it. They're just the adolescent lad who has, they're kind of without the social kind of skills sometimes, and they can really get themselves into trouble. But as soon as you've peaked over adolescence, that then starts to drop off all the way through their lifetime, unless they're neutered. So that real peak in adolescence can have such an effect on them. And if we can remember back a long time to us, slamming doors and that kind of behavior and wanting to get out and spread our wings, that's exactly what the dogs are doing. They're pushing boundaries, they're testing, they're getting braver. So
you say the bravery thing is terrifying. She is a very brave dog, which is lovely. I mean, she's taken a while. She's getting better with people. We've still got a slight issue with people a little bit. She still barks at people a bit, but she's getting used to them quicker. But this bravery thing, it is terrifying. She loves water, and she will just launch into any water, which, I mean, I'm not a water person, but obviously it just terrifies me and would terrify me anyway. But she has learned a bit of a lesson about that. But it's not thinking, is it? It's just go.
It is that complete behavior. And it's one of those, it can be this fearlessness that they have during this period where they're kind of testing boundaries and they haven't learnt, that whole, idea of fear behind it. God, I can't believe we've done 15 minutes. Really, I know. We wanted to really give people a couple of ideas, especially when you've got an adolescent dog. We don't want to be walking them that far, but we do need to keep them occupied.
Yeah.
And Julia, I know you've got a brilliant idea that you use with Tilly and with Maggie.
Yeah, well, I'll flip the camera around. Excuse me, sort of leaning into the screen, but they're both there now. And basically, I love the marrow bones, and I used to be able to get them from a butcher, but now I have to buy them in little packets, which is annoying, but that's the way it is. So they are quite accessible. That is the one good thing. They're not cheap. They're a couple of quid or so, but they're the nice sort of long bone marrow bones. So you've got that. But then I pick them up after they finish them, wash them down and stuff them with their food and then put them in the freezer. So I've got marrow bones, well, they're not marrow bones, but bones for them. And this is what they're eating now. They're quite far away, but that will keep them busy. And the lovely thing is it's still got that slight flavor, I think. And so they actually spend ages with them. So you really get your money's worth. You just got to be a bit careful about the edges because they can get a bit splintery. But I much prefer these fresh or frozen marrow bones to the fried ones or whatever they are, because they really can get splintery, can't they?
I think anything cooked is best avoided. Definitely. Yeah. Anything cooked, avoid. But the idea that you can reuse, those kind of bones with that amount, and you can just see their eyes are closing. It's such a calming thing for them to do. Using every element. And also because their adult teeth are still bedding in, although they've got their adult teeth, it doesn't mean that they've stopped teething. Those are big teeth, and they need those sort of things that just to calm them and just to bed those teeth in as well. Exactly. We're almost out of time.
I know. It keeps her quiet though, just very quickly, while I'm working, because of course a lot of the puppies that Tilly is, a lockdown puppy, people have been working at home, and when they're puppies they tend to sleep more and they're quite easier to entertain-ish. But when you've got the adolescent, they actually get, as you saw, quite demanding, don't they? So this really, really does help. The other thing I must just say is that I do find, you talked about exercise. If Tilly goes out for anything more than 30 minutes, which is not normal, but if she does, which of course for her it's more like an hour because she's running everywhere, I find she will not settle. She gets so overwrought. So I really do keep the exercise down to under 30 minutes, definitely.
I think that's a really, really important point. And also because people have got so much more time because they may not be commuting to jobs, it's very tempting to take the dogs out for a lot longer period of exercise. And it's a weekend, it's so tempting to grab the family and put the wellies on and let's go for a long stomp.
That's what we're allowed to do, isn't it?
Yeah, but if your dogs are young, please, please do not take them for those longer walks. Keep it short. Have the patience now, and that is going to reward you in the long term with a nice...
We mean young, under 18 months, really, don't we? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Guys, we're out of time. We've actually overrun again. Lucy can't join us next week, but she will be with us. We're going to do a lovely catch up with Marge in 2 weeks' time, which will be fantastic. And Julia and I are back next week. So we can't wait to have a chat to you next week. We've got some lovely topics that we're going to cover off with you then. So please tune in.
Yeah. Any questions, please post them.
Yeah. Any questions, please post below and we'll get back to you with those. But thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.